Hey guys, good morning. We've got a great section of scripture we're going to dive into today. The disciples are in a situation where they're going to be going to Jerusalem. There's a bit of fear that is creeping into them as they know that there's been a lot of pressure coming alongside of all the disciples, specifically a lot of pressure on Jesus. He's had a lot of interactions with the Pharisees, and so they're on their way up to Jerusalem, and there's a sense of fear. And Jesus is going to handle these guys with truth. And I think that's the best way for us to deal with fear. And we're going to find out how he does it. So we're in Mark chapter 10. We'll start there in verse 32. It says, "And now they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was going before them, and they were amazed. And as they followed, they were afraid." So why were they amazed? Because Jesus was still going to go to Jerusalem, despite all of the interactions, the potential fears, the potential threats of death, everything like that. They were just following him, and you can imagine just the experience of these disciples. They would have been walking behind Jesus, probably having conversations like, "Can you believe what just happened here? Can you believe this?" And then they said, "We're actually going to Jerusalem. Like, does he understand like how much danger there is there?" And they were fearful, but Jesus was going regardless. And Jesus understood this, and it continues on. It says, "Then he took the 12 aside again and began to tell them the things that would happen to him. Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem. The Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death, deliver him to the Gentiles, and they will mock him, scourge him, spit on him, and kill him. And the third day he will rise again." Wow. And what a incredible thing that Jesus is saying. He's like, "Listen, I'm going to die. Like, this is the entire reason why I've existed." And in the midst of your fear, he's actually not like saying, "Hey, don't be afraid." He's telling them truth, right? And the truth that they needed to hear was the truth of the gospel, right? The actual work that the Lord was going to do on behalf of their souls, right? And as we face anything in our life, any level of fears that might come up, fear of the future, fear of a job, change, fear of where we're going to live, you can go through all the different kinds of fears of how relationships are going to go, fear of speaking out, fear of making it a choice to walk away from sin. You can think of all these sorts of fears that exist, but the one thing that should really stand out to all of us is that the thing that should quelch all of our fears is a reminder that the greatest fear that we have should be of death. But we don't have that anymore for followers of Jesus Christ. Why? Well, because Jesus went to Jerusalem. He was betrayed. He was handed over, right, to the Jews to be tried unfairly. He was eventually handed over to the Romans, and they would mock him and scourge him and beat him and hang him on a cross. And ultimately, he'd be put to death. But at the end of the day, right, or end of 3 days, he would raise from the dead. And prove that every bit of the greatest fear that we have is is done for. It's finished. There's no more concerns, no more worries. And in the same respect, when we look at life and we look at the potential of maybe an illness or a sickness or an uncertainty of what the next season looks like, and fear tends to grip us, there has to be a reminder that in a much bigger and broader picture, that God has established us for eternity through His Son going to the cross on our behalf and proving that He's defeated death by raising from the grave, and that we have hope in that. The greatest point of fear that all mankind has is now done. So every other area of our life, if we just go back to that very thing, should give us hope. And that's exactly what should have happened for the disciples. They didn't get it, they didn't understand it, they didn't hold fast to it. So therefore the fear would have continued to persist even up to the point when Jesus was betrayed, and they scattered and disappeared. And we can't be like that. We are called to be completely different. When life gets hard and fear sets in, we need to look at the cross. The Lord did not forsake us. The Lord was so like focused as he went to the cross. His face was like a rock, right? Is set there for the joy that was set before him. That would have been us. He endured the cross, and so therefore every one of our life situations, we can have hope and we can have peace because fear no longer should grip us, even in the greatest of moments. and that would be the moment of death. We no longer have fear there. So why should we have fear in life? I love you guys. God bless you all. Be encouraged and strengthened. And if you've got some fear, just remember the cross. Remember the gospel, the good news, what the Lord did for you, even though you were still a sinner. He loved you enough to go through all of those things and ultimately prove that he could defeat your greatest fear, and that would be death. So every other fear should only be minimal compared to that. And it's done. It's finished. So take rest, take heart, take hope. Love you guys. God bless you.